I'll call the order of the Sparks Planning Commission for June 2nd, 2011. First item is roll call.
Roll call. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Volk.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson. Here. Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Nowinski.
Here.
Commissioner Sanders. Absent. Commissioner Sperber.
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Doug Thornley.
Here.
Community Services Director Lovegood.
Here. Thank you. Next we have the approval of the minutes for April 7th, 2011.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Volz and a second from Commissioner Peterson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next we have announcements and committee reports. Seeing none. Informational items. Tim? Moving right along. Public comment. Anybody in the audience wishes to speak on any item, either on or off the agenda? You have 12 minutes. Seeing none, we'll go to public hearing items. PCN 10007, Ride Out Properties, LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Tim Thompson, Senior Planner for the record. This is a special use permit request from Blado Properties to allow for the construction of a fast food restaurant at Jack in the Box located over on Audi Boulevard in front of the Lowe's. Staff found out last week that the applicant is not prepared to move forward. They're still working with some of the other property owners on access, maintenance, landscape, parking, easements with those other property owners, and until they have a higher level of comfort, they have chosen not to pay their special use permit fee at this time. Because this was agendized and noticed, we ask that you go ahead and open the public hearing to allow anyone here to speak on the item. Close the public hearing and then take no action. If and when the special use permit is ready to come back for Planning Commission consideration, staff will again renotice according to state law and city code, and we'll bring that before you for your consideration.
Thank you, Tim. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. And I imagine we can just take no action at this time until it's brought before us again, Tim, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Next we have PCN 11015 Soccer Academy, LLC. Tim?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Tim Thompson, Senior Planner for the record. This is a special use permit request to allow for a private recreation facility on a site approximately 5 acres in the industrial zoning district located at 1315 Greg Street. The proposed use is Soccer Academy LLC. It's about a 9,500 square foot facility. Approximately half of the area would be used for training, soccer training, and then the remainder of the area would be used for would have exercise equipment, ellipticals, treadmills, those types of things. The facility is intended to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It doesn't sound like the facility will have employees there all the time. It'll be card key entry, so you have a card that will allow you access to the gym that people can then access whenever it's convenient for them. In looking at the proposal, staff wasn't able to identify any significant issues. Obviously, parking comes up in situations like this. However, we believe that the parking can be satisfied through the number of spaces that's going to be allocated to this particular tenant, as well as through non-concurrent joint use of spaces that have been allocated to other tenants during off-peak hours or during the hours that those other businesses are not operating. These types of facilities generally see more traffic in the evening when those other businesses in the center would not be operating, so they can take advantage of that parking. So we don't envision parking being a problem. However, there is a condition that the parking requirements are met. Through the process, a couple things were identified, particularly with the building department. Whether or not this particular space is suitable for the proposed use in its current state. Through the review process, it was identified that there is the possibility that additional restroom facilities, drinking fountains, fire separation requirements, and those types of things may need there may need to be some improvements to rectify those according to the adopted building code. So you'll see in the conditions of approval, there's a specific condition that talks about the applicant providing a code study so that the building department can determine where exactly the building stands in relationship to the current code requirements and what improvements would need to be done in order to meet those requirements. That goes right along with the fire department as well. And then we don't anticipate traffic as being a problem. However, our engineering division did ask for a wet stamp trip generation letter from the applicant, just ensuring that they don't trip that 80 peak hour trips, which would cause a full-blown traffic study. With that, staff is recommending approval of this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Tim? Commissioner Barnes?
Tim, in the past, I'm trying to remember years ago, we were looking at some uses that had longer hours or durations. And I thought we had a discussion about industrial areas and 24-hour use, not just for health clubs, but for other things. Is there much going on in this area? 24 hours?
Probably not. I think most of the uses that you find in the industrial area are those industrial type uses that operate between 5 or 6 in the morning to 5 or 6 in the evening. It wouldn't be uncharacteristic though to have a distribution facility that maybe worked 24 hours or even manufacturing, depending on what was being manufactured and how they chose to run their shifts. I think there are operations in the industrial area that do run 24 hours a day. However, I would venture to say that it's not too frequently that we see that.
And it's not an issue with the police department? Since they don't control that area very much.
Well, we send them the applications, and we did not receive any comments from them in this particular case. So,
thank you.
Commissioner Bowles?
Tim, just a question about the way the PCN 11015 is written. I'm wondering if it creates any confusion in the future. We will be moving on, requesting this to be allowed as a private recreational facility on a site approximately 5 acres. But this is a 9,500 square foot parcel inside, or part of a building inside that 5 acres. Is the fact that the address is there, that is the address of the individual part of the property, I'm assuming, the 1315? Or is that the address of the overall facility?
I believe the address is for the building itself, and then I believe there are individual unit numbers.
All right, so that was my question then, as to whether, are we approving any private recreational facility in that entire 5 acre facility located at that address? For instance, if someone wanted to do something 2 doors down, would they have to come before us at all?
Yes. This special use permit is limited to this address, this particular unit, 9,500 square feet. You've got a floor plan here.
Should we be saying in 1315 Greg Street Unit X or Y or Z then?
You certainly could do that if we want to be clear. My experience has been we haven't had that kind of situation in the past happen, but be aware. If for whatever reason this use goes away in the future, there is a time frame to which another private recreation facility use can come in and basically pick up where this one left off, and they would still have to comply with these same conditions of approval. The time period is 6 months, so if that use ceases for 6 months, then it's deemed abandoned, and then anybody has to go through a special use.
Well, my main concern was that by approving this, we weren't opening up that entire facility to any other kind of recreational facility without our perusal. Is that correct?
Right.
Tim, I had a question. Under the regulations 2049 off-street parking, disabled parking will be provided.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, it should already be there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the larger scope of the project, it should be there, so yes.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Any other questions for Tim? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I open this up for the public. Anybody in the audience wish to come speak on this? Armando? No? Okay. Seeing none, you might come on down.
Hi, I'm Rose Schoen. I'm the applicant.
What was your full name, ma'am?
Rose Schoen.
Thank
And
you.
there is disabled parking already. I've looked in the parking lot, so it is accessible. That was the only question I wanted to answer for you guys. And and the suite is 105. If you wanted to add that, so to clarify that.
Do you have any idea how many members are going to?
Typically on a soccer team, it's about 20 players, and including coaches. So I'm thinking, and because the court holds one team at a time, like that's what we want it to be. That's what we're planning on doing for the space. So, I mean, I think the amount of people that would be there at one time would be about like 20, 25. And a lot of times with soccer teams in general, the parents drop off the kids and then come back. So the flow of traffic would be like a few cars dropping off kids, one or two, the coach's car staying there, and then parents picking them up.
So to have access to the building, you have to have a card, correct?
Right. So the way we want to set it up is that you'd have to have a deadbolt and then also a key card access, and then also have an alarm code to punch in, which is different for each person that gets a key, basically. And then what we want to do is after, say if they rent it out for a certain amount of time, if they want to do the next year, they get a different code. So it's security reasons they get, and we want the key back. So that's what we wanted to do, so that just so we could keep it differentiated with who has keys, who has access, keeping a list, and then also for security purposes, because the fire department wanted to know if there's like an emergency, how we know who's in the building. We want to have like a sign-in sheet, so when you enter the building, all people sign their name in, what team they're with, what time they come in, what day it is.
So every year you change the code or on the,
Right, so
on
we're
the
changing
key,
the code,
card
so
key
we want
itself?
to change the code like about annually for anyone who wants to use the facility.
So if somebody came in, pressed their card key in there, and then they didn't write down their name, how would you be able to go back and find
But
out the
basically,
last?
there's always a facilitator at the facility. So, like, I'm the manager of the facility, so I'm going to be there. But the coaches, so if they show up a little bit early before I show up, they'll be able to enter, set up the kids. I show up, make sure everything's okay, and then I lock up at the end of the night.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm always the one who's been locking it. Like, I'd be locking up, making sure everything's taken care of, deadbolted, everyone's clear of the facility.
Commissioner Peterson?
And Rose, you did look at these findings, or these, the conditions of approval. You've gone
For
through
the
those.
code
and-
study, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure you knew that too. So it really won't be then open, like you say, you'll lock up at the end
Right.
of the evening.
I mean, it's
So-
basically like what I want to be is available, but if a person wanted to use it at a different hour of the time, they would have to contact me to get the key, to get the code, to be able to have access, and then I would also be there to make sure it gets locked up.
So it's not just willy-nilly kids
No.
in and out.
No, and especially because I would never want to give people under 18 these keys.
Right.
It would be a responsible adult, obviously probably a coach, but just in case, because the way it works is we want the door to lock once you leave. So if a coach has to go out to their car, grab a ball of bags, come back in, they can be able to enter back in and go to the practice. So even if I'm sitting inside, like they would be able to come back in and out, but they'd be the ones with you. You kind of see what I'm saying?
And in the situation of a team and a coach and a players, those players presumably would be underage. Would they have individual
No.
cards? Just the coach who's
the
authorized to be in there with them?
Correct.
And that's who you would be selling. I mean, it's not our business from the standpoint of the planning commission, but you would be selling memberships to a team then, as opposed to
It would be like basically we're subletting the space. So the gym would be divided into like the gym space and the court space. The court was where they'd be practicing. So we'd be subletting it for like say half an hour for a certain price, an hour and a half. And then they would be able to use it for that time period, and then they would leave.
and presumably no one else would have access to the facility during that time then?
Right, for that part of the facility. So if they were exclusively rented out the court facility, then that would be theirs exclusively. They exclusively rent out the gym. So it's not like a 24-hour access gym per se, but if they say a team wanted to perhaps use like an elliptical or a treadmill machine, and like 5 players wanted to use that, they could rent out that gym. Or if a team wanted to use the court and practice with 15 players, they would rent out the court.
Yes, I didn't listen well enough on one of those things you were saying. So you are planning to be there during hours, except for, like you say, occasionally maybe they'll come earlier.
Correct.
The coach will come and.
Right.
Okay.
Just because I feel more comfortable, I would feel more comfortable walking up
Right.
and making sure that's, and also because there's like different, like they want to use a certain soccer ball. If I have a couple different sized soccer ball, like help them out. If, make sure they know where the first aid kit is. And I would show them all that and be like, okay, these are all this stuff.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience wish to come speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
Commissioner Lean,
Commissioner Peterson,
you prepared for a motion?
we are.
I move to approve special use permit associated with PCN 11015 to allow for a private recreation facility adopting findings S1 through S6 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval 1 through 7 as listed in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion approved from Commissioner Peterson, second from Commissioner Barnes. Any other discussion?
Just wondering if Commissioner Peterson would accept an amendment to add Suite 105 to the address on the...
I think that would be just fine.
Commissioner Barnes, you second that?
That's fine.
Okay, with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, I forgot.
Good luck.
Next, we have general business, comments from the commissioners. Mr. Sperber?
No comment. No comment, sir.
Right. Thank you. We are adjourned.
What you doing here?
I always love he does that. I always love.